Chris. Welcome to my basement gym for yoga. I've got my mats, I have my block and my strap. If you don't have a block or a strap by now, that's okay, don't worry about it. Feel free to grab a couple pillows, a belt, a towel, whatever that you think would work instead of a strap, and come join us for this yoga class. We're going to start standing today, and we'll kind of get ourselves sort of relaxed, get out of our brain first before we start adding movement. So let's find ourselves in a comfortable position standing. Now, maybe that's with your feet under your hips. Maybe you would like to go more traditional yoga where the big toes touch and you separate the heels so the outside edges are to one another. Whatever works for you. I always say there's no right, no wrong. We're just different, okay? So find what feels good for you, and let's just start with our breathing. Let's focus on our breathing. Let's not fixate on what's the right or wrong way right now. I just want us to notice how we breathe. Are we inhaling and letting our lungs lift from here? Are we expanding from our belly? Let's just take note of how we currently feel. Do we have an achy shoulder? Do we have a knee that creaks? Maybe we feel a little stiff or tight in our low backs. Let's keep that in mind through our practice today. And that way, if we're in a position where it doesn't feel quite comfortable, the twist is too much, the fold is too much for that area, soften it back out of it. We want to be able to practice and be able to breathe comfortably and feel release within the movement, but not tension. So let's not shoot for tension. Let's shoot for great breathing, great movement, good feeling, okay? So starting with our breath, let's change that focus, bring the breath down into our belly. Inhaling, our belly raises and expands, front, back, side to side, like we're filling up a balloon. And as we exhale, everything falls in. Belly softens, ribs soften. Inhale and exhale. Taking our time. Inhaling and exhale. Why do we breathe into our bellies? We have a nerve there, vagus nerve. When we breathe into our bellies, we stimulate that nerve, and that sends an immediate thought to the brain that, hey, we're trying to relax here. So let's release all those calming hormones that allow us to soften those facial muscles, soften our shoulders. Feeling a little bit less fight or flight, more about calm, relaxing, control. It's a great tool to use throughout your day if you're feeling anxious, stressed, overwhelmed. Just give yourself a few breaths. No one even needs to know what you're doing. If you can, close your eyes. Maybe go to a quiet spot. And just take a couple minutes. You're worth that. Calming, deep breathing. Now paying attention to where we are standing on our mat. Are we kind of heavy into the ball of our feet? Maybe we've got our belly sticking out, making a shelf here, our shoulders are rounded. Let's pull ourselves into a beautiful mountain pose. Let's start by lifting the arches of our feet and rotating our thigh bones open, pulling our tailbone underneath. Notice that change it does, cascading up the body. Our belly becomes a little active. Lifting our sternum towards our nose, our shoulder blades draw slightly together and pull down. Broadening those collarbones. our neck from that forward position. We pull the ears so they're stacked over our shoulders. Weight is a little bit more into our heels than they are into the ball of the foot. We're standing tall, standing proud, but not rigid like a soldier. There's still softness within my mountain pose. All I've done is lift the arches of my feet using my feet muscles, rotating the thigh bones forward, opening up my hips, and that takes my tailbone gently underneath me instead of pressed out behind. Brings activeness to the belly. Our sternum just gently lifts up. We're not flaring our ribs out, sticking them out. It's just a little lift. We're just lengthening everything. And just by lifting our sternum, our shoulders go from collapsed to open. And notice that opens up the bends in our elbows. Just imagine you got a string running right through the crown of your head, and it's just being gently lifted up. It's helping to kind of shuffle all those body parts into this wonderfully neutral, stacked position. The load isn't in your low back, it isn't in your neck, it isn't in your knees. Every part is doing their job equally, so that not one body part is working harder than the other. Good. Practice this mountain pose whenever you feel tired, your low back hurts, your shoulders ache. Standing in line someplace, maybe standing at work. Let's bring our hands to heart center. Coming through the middle. How close can we keep our elbows? For how long? That's okay if they separate sooner. Spreading the fingertips apart, reaching the walls. Through the middle again. Inhaling. Exhale, reaching those side walls. Inhale, lifting. And exhale, reaching those side walls. Good. 2 more times. Inhale, lifting. And exhale, reaching those side walls. Let's go the opposite direction. So we're going to reach out, sweep up, open up our chest to the ceiling, and drawing through the middle. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, pull through the middle. 2 more times. Inhale, lifting. And exhale, pulling through the middle. 1 last time. Inhale, lifting. And exhale, pulling through the middle. Good. Going into a small chair pose. Hands at heart center. Thumb on our sternum. Pushing the hips back. And pressing through the floor to lift and lower. Let's do that again. Chair pose, not super deep. Notice the movement. Pulling the hips back. Heavy in our heels. And lifting. Good. 2 more times. Inhale, lift. Exhale, pulling back into chair pose. And lifting out. 1 last time. Inhaling as we lift. Exhale, pulling the hips back to chair pose. Good. Coming into forward fold. If you need your block, sneak over and grab that block. Me, I'm going to let my hands rest on my shins, hugging my thigh muscles to the bone. Good. Let's press through, reversing our forward fold. And hands to heart center, chair pose, sitting back. forward fold. Reversing our fold. And coming into chair. Lifting out a chair into forward fold. And reversing that fold into chair. One more cycle. Forward fold. Reversing that fold. And coming into chair last time. Staying tall as we drop our right arm. Half moon, reaching in opposite directions. One more time each side, half moon. Dropping the right arm, pushing the left hips out, pushing through the floor. Hands reaching in opposite directions, pressing the right hip out. Oh, that feels so good. Let's do one more. I feel this in my ribs. Push through the ribs, lengthen through the ribs, separate the ribs. Good. And releasing. If you need your block, please grab your block. We're going to be doing some forward fold. I'm going to grab a quick sip because I have a bit of a hoarseness to my voice right now. Excuse me. So grabbing your block, we're going to go a little deeper into that forward fold. Our first forward fold was just sort of a wake up. That's why I just went to my shins. I didn't try to fold all the way down. Just trying to get ourselves to wake up a little bit. So I'm going to put my block at the end of my mat. Coming into forward fold. Inhaling as we lift. Exhale, pressing our hips back. Releasing to the block. Now if you need to, you can put your block a little higher and just let everything from our waist up hang down. Thigh muscles are strong, hugging thigh muscles to the bone. And just shake your head side to side as if saying no, and nodding as if saying yes. Good. Let's lift up halfway out of forward fold into airplane. Squeeze the shoulder blades together and folding back down. And one more time, shake the head as if saying no and nodding as if saying yes. Let's bend one leg. So we just walk in place with our forward fold. Again, if this just puts too much tension on that low back, feel free to raise that block. It's still early in class. We may still be tight, so if you need to, and even if this doesn't work, feel free to rest your hands high on your thighs, just not on your knees. Let's straighten both legs in our forward fold. Legs are strong and active. The upper body's relaxed. Let's reverse that forward fold. And bringing our hands behind our backs. And again, if you can't lace your fingers together, feel free just to hug a big beach ball. Give it a good squeeze, opening through the chest. And think of lifting the sternum to the ceiling. Palms facing forward, thumbs up. Good, lift. And forward fold. Again, let's walk in place. Upper body is totally relaxed. Our legs are taking the strength of this fold. Good. Let's quiet the legs. And we're just going to walk our fingertips down, bending our knees generously, and coming down into quadruped. Feel free to move your block off to the side. We won't be needing it right away. And come to hands and knees. Now again, if you are on a hard floor, feel free to make a wrinkle in the mat for your knees, or if you have carpal tunnel issues, making a wrinkle in the mat can help elevate the wrists So you're not really flexing back, you got it from here instead here. So please find what makes you feel comfortable. As we just do a little bit of wag the dog, lifting our back foot. Let's look at our heel, and through our mind's eye, follow that wag towards the opposite side. Shortening the distance between our hips and our rib. One more time, wag the dog. And changing sides. Following that foot in your mind's eye. Good. One more time. As we prepare for cat-cow. Tailbone tucks under. Round the spine. Pressing the man away. Let's separate those shoulder blades as our gaze falls between the knees in cow. Scooping into cat. Dropping the chest through the shoulders and pulling forward. And then tailbone tucks under in cat. And scooping into cow. Try to make sure that you're not just collapsing in your low back, pinching vertebrae discs. We want to keep it healthy. So think of scooping the tailbone up. Drop the chest and pulling the chest through instead of seeing how far you can sink into the low back. Pinky swear. One more cycle. Cat-cow. Drop the chest, pull the chest through. Try to push that cow curve further up the spine than in that low back. Good. Coming back to neutral, what I'd like to do is just focus a little bit on our low backs right here. So instead of a full cat-cow, just want us to tuck the tailbone and then turn the tailbone up. Tuck and turn up. Tuck and turn up. Let's loosen up our low backs. Tuck and turn up. 2 more times. Tuck and turn up. 1 last time. Tuck and up. Let's bring the knees together for extended child pose as we press the hips back onto our heels, deepening the stretch for that lower back. Directing the breath through the low back. Feel the low back expand as we breathe. Arms are extended, elbows are straight, helping to push your hips back onto your heels. If you have trouble getting your hips to touch your heels, sneak over, grab your block. Place it under your forehead. If that feels good, wonderful. If this feels good, placing the block between your hips and your heels. No right, no wrong, just different. Good. Take the hands a little wider than our mats with the pinkies just sort of overlapping. And let's take our right hand over top of the left and sitting out onto our right hip. And going back wide. And placing our left hand over our right hand and sitting it out on our left hip. And coming back wide. Placing our hands under our shoulders for gentle support as we come up into diamond. Good. Let's have a seat upon our sit-upons. If sitting like this feels a little bit uncomfortable on your low back, it's a little bit tight, I don't want to recommend a block. I would recommend more making a wrinkle in your mat, even making 2, because I don't want us to elevate so much that when we lock out our knees, we hyperextend. I just want a little bit of a lift here, okay? Because from here, what I'd like us to do is elevate. Taking the fingertips behind us. Fingertips pointing towards our gluteals. If that feels uncomfortable on the wrist, slightly turn the fingers out, okay? That can reduce just a little bit of discomfort within the shoulders. So from here, not elevating just yet, but let's inhale, point our toes. Hold the belly down. And as we exhale, push through the floor and opening up through the chest. So we don't want to lead with our belly button. We want to pull that belly button in and lead with our sternum like we're making a bow. We're opening up through the shoulders. We're pulling the shoulder blades back, broadening the collarbone. Good. Inhale and exhale, releasing. Flexing our feet, sitting up nice and tall. Let's walk the fingertips forward into a hinge, stopping when we feel that resistance or we want to fold forward. Let's not fold just yet. Let the backs of our legs be active into the floor. Knees are soft, not locked out, but we're pushing our heels, our calves, and the upper portion of our thighs into that mat. Good. Feel this. Where do I feel the tension? Where is it tight? The back of the legs mainly, a little bit in the low back. Now, draping ourselves over our legs. Now we feel a little bit deeper stretch, but it's now more up into our low back. Breathe. Good. Pointing our toes and walking ourselves back into a bit of a reverse plank. Cramp in my toe. Pointing our toes as we inhale, scoop out through the belly. As we exhale, press through the mat, broadening the collarbones. Think of leading right here, right in the middle of your chest, not with the belly. Opening up, pushing the floor away. Good. Inhaling and exhale. Let's flex those feet. Walk the fingertips forward into a hinge, not rounding just yet. Feeling that change, that difference. Inhale. And now draping over our legs. Breathe. Good. Let's point our toes again. This time we're going to be adding elevation with that reverse plank. Inhaling and exhale. Push through the floor. Good. Breathe. 3 breaths. Squeeze the glutes. Squeezing the backs of the legs. Inhale. And exhale as we lower. Let's draw the knees in, giving them a hug, keeping the chest and thigh in contact as we sneak our legs out. Good. Release. And again, reverse plank. Inhale and exhale. Push through the floor with your heels, squeezing the gluteals. Inhale. 2 more breaths. 1 more. And drawing our knees to chest. Keeping the knees and chest in contact, let's sneak out our feet till we feel that delicious stretch in the back of our legs into our low back. Keep your legs where they were and just butterfly the legs open, bringing the soles of the feet together. Excuse me. Let's walk ourselves forward. You can grab the instep of your feet or your big toes and just let yourself drape over the opening between the knees. Let's raise our head up, tucking our feet underneath us, coming back to quadruped. Let's walk out into low plank, pulling the chest over our hands. We're not allowing the hips to sink down. We're not having our butt stick up. Tuck the tailbone under. Belly muscles are tight, forming a straight line from the top of the knees, up through the thigh bone, through our spine, and out through the head. Let's press back into extended child pose. Inhale, prepare to cat curl, and exhale, cat curl to a low plank. Pressing back into extended child pose, and cat curl forward, and low plank, extended child, cat curl to low plank. And this time let's dig our toes in, downward facing dog briefly as we press back. Draw forward, lowering the knees, and extended child pose. Cat curl, low plank, downward facing dog, to high plank, and lowering to extended child pose. Cat curl forward to low plank, downward facing dog, into a high plank, and back into extended child pose. This time we will stay into our downward facing dog, walking in place, bending one knee for one cycle. Inhale, switch. Exhale, switch. Let the weight settle back into your heels. Try not to be loaded forward. If you are, maybe it's because you're a little too tight. Walk your feet out a little bit more to sink the chest. Bend your knees a little bit. Even doing a puppy. Puppy is just basically a downward facing dog from your knee. And you're like this. That is just fine. Find what works for you. Let's quiet our downward facing dog. Sweeping the leg closest to each other up, bending, and just open briefly towards each other. And extend down, pulling the knee in. And one more time, sweep up, open, extending straight, floating the knee down, draw the knee in, make a big round spine. One last time. And draw in, and foot comes down, dropping down into extended child pose briefly. Soften those elbows. Give your shoulders a little bit of a break. Though we try the best we can, sometimes we do load in those shoulders. But we do want that weight in our hips and the light in our shoulders. Just give yourself a moment to breathe. And we'll do the same thing, other side. From extended child pose, cat curl up to low plank. Toes dig in for downward facing dog. And this time, sweeping the leg furthest from each other. Opening up away. Straighten our legs, squaring up our hips as we draw the knee in. Come forward and round the spine. And sweep up. Open the chest to the wall. Extending our legs straight, floating the foot down. Draw in. One last time. Draw in. And coming back to the floor. Into plank. Let's lower all the way down. And resting in crocodile. Stacking one arm on top of the other. Resting your cheek on your forearm. Good. Let's Let's bring our arms down by our sides. And make sure I'm not going to kick my water, because that's something I would do. So, working on locust, we're going to do a bit of bow. Okay? So I want you to pick and choose. Don't go into bow, full bow. If it hurts, if you feel like your bow is flat like this, you're not even getting off the ground, I'd rather have you find the right pose for you. So if half bow is what works for you, to where you can lift your chest, lift your thigh and your knee, wonderful. Try not to make your bow like this. If it looks like this, then locust would be a great place to stay for you, where you just think about opening up your chest and lifting your thighs. Pinky swear promise you'll do what feels good for you. Let's all start together with locust. Our forehead rests on the ground. I'm going to talk towards the camera though, so you can hear me. It's hard to hear when I'm looking downwards, so please feel free to rest your head on the ground. Arms are by your sides, palms facing upward, and the feet comfortable distance apart. As we inhale to prepare, let's pull the belly button away from the floor, pushing the tops of our thighs into the floor. As we exhale, slide the fingertips down the mat towards our knees and open up the chest. But again, pull the belly button away from the floor. It's again, so we don't dig into our low back. It's about chest expansion, not low back crunching. Breathe. From here, on your next exhalation, let's reach the feet outward and upward. Again, squeezing our glutes, squeezing the backs of our legs, our hamstrings. Breathe. This is a wonderful progression. So from locust, if we want, we can go to half bow, resting the opposite foot down, bringing the opposite forearm at the top of our mat. We can rest our forehead here, pressing a foot into the hand and opening up the chest. If this feels wonderful, maybe you want to go into full bow. Find what feels good for you. Please stay half bow. We will do this again, so don't worry, we will be balanced. Just take some breaths and feel yourself rock. Belly breathing. And let's release. We are in full bow, release one at a time. We're in locust, we're coming out. Half bow, just remember what side you did. Feel free, if you were in half locust the whole time, come down, take a breath, take a break, and rejoin. Okay? Well, let's do the same thing. So that way, half bow, we have the opportunity to do the opposite leg. So again, starting with locust. Head is down, palms face the ceiling. Inhaling as we prepare, pulling the belly button away from the floor. And exhale. Let the hands reach down the mat. Breathe. Chest opening, not low back crunching. So pull that belly button hard up into the spine. And now allowing the feet to float up. Allowing our kneecaps to lift. By squeezing our gluteals and squeezing the muscles, our hamstrings that run on the back of our leg. Good. Now if you'd like, half bow, changing legs. If that feels wonderful, full. Take breaths, half or locust if you need to. Come back in. Just slowly release it. Hands come underneath our shoulders. Let's separate our knees this time for extended child pose. Feel free to grab that block. You might need it more for your forehead this time. Just by separating the knees, that gives more room in our hips. So coming down into extended child pose can be easy. So if I ever say knees together and it don't feel good, go ahead and go knees apart for now, okay? Inhale, preparing to cat curl to hands and knees. And exhale, pulling ourselves up, cat curl up. Let's come to a low plank, toes dig in for downward facing dog. As we press our hips back. The weight is in our hips, not in our shoulders. Breathe. Good. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now inhale, pull and bend the knees, pull the knees in. Let the shins hover on the floor, and then press back. Good, 2 more times. Bend the knees. Let the shins hover over the mat, and then press back. 1 more time. Bending our knees. Let the shins hover, and pressing back. Let's walk our feet up to our hands. Reversing our fold. As we come to the center of our mat. Yes, that snapping you heard was my knees. Snap, crackle, pop for me, I guess. I'm gonna grab a drink. Feel free to come into mountain pose. We will be doing some triangle. Preparing for triangle pose. Let's step our feet 3 to 3.5 feet apart. Arms at T. Let's turn the right toes out fully. The left toes turn in slightly. Our weight is equal. We're centered in our hip. As we inhale, reach to the right, drop the right hip, and lift our left hip up. Reaching out as far as we can. And then allow the hand just to drop down. Rest on the inside of our knee. Beautiful. It's a tall triangle. Don't try to see how far you can go down because then we just collapse. I just want us to have a nice straight spine. And then the hand goes where it is. Okay? Breathe. Now, we can deepen this triangle. Let's bend our knee. Slide the hand down a little bit more. And wiggle the left leg out a little. Now, pressing to straight. Drop the rib cage. That's important. The rib cage can't be lifted. We gotta pull that rib cage down. Let the gaze go up to the ceiling. Exhale, triangle. Inhaling, press through both feet, lift up. And release. Let's change sides. So creep the feet back in just a little bit because we did sneak them out. Arms at T, left toes turn out fully. Right toes in slightly. Starting with our tall triangle. Reach to the left, dropping the left hip, lifting our right and pushing out to the right. Good. Nice long spine. And the hand goes where it is. Open up that triangle, allow the gaze to lift up. Breathe. Tailbone under, our legs are strong. Good. Let's put a bend into our left knee, allowing this hand to sink a little bit deeper. Again, it's not this. The rib needs to come with us. And then you can wiggle that left foot out if you like, or the right foot, excuse me. And then pressing straight. A little bit of a deeper triangle. And allowing our gaze to come up towards our hand. Breathe. Again, if the ribs are lifted and you can't pull them down, slide that hand up. Okay? It's all right. Good. Breathing into our triangle, inhale. Exhale, press through the feet to lift. Hands to heart center as we turn our toes forward. Let's come back to the other side. So again, creeping the feet in. They're about 3.5 feet apart, roughly. Turning into triangle to our right. Let's do this one more time. Pressing the left hip down, or the right hip, excuse me, lifting our right. This hip, oh my goodness. Staying tall in the triangle at this time. Beautiful. Now putting a bend in the leg. Remember, it's not rounding over. We pull the ribs with us. Wiggle that left leg out if you need to, and then pressing to straight. Breathe. Gaze may go up towards the hands. Beautiful. Inhale, triangle. And exhale, pressing through both feet to lift as we change sides. Inhale, reach as far as we can. And then exhale. Tall triangle. Open up our gaze. Now, putting a bend into the leg, bringing the ribs with us. If we want, we can scoot that other foot back. And then pressing. Inhale, triangle. Exhale, press out to lift. And hands to heart center. Let's toe heel in comfortably. Coming back to mountain pose. Good. Let's shift our weight heavier into our right leg. As we just come up onto the ball of our left foot, we're going to do knee to chest. Hands lace underneath the knee. Let's just point and flex. Working on balance. Release. Arms to T. Hinging at our hip. Let's point the knee to the ground and extend the leg back. Doesn't need to be super deep. Notice the hips are squared. And lift up. Slow, slow, slow. Knee lift and support. Good. One more time. Hugging those right thigh muscles to the bone. Grow that foot through the floor. Think up, don't think down. Let the knee point. Hinge. It's okay if you're wobbly. Heart center and lower. Changing sides. Shake it out. Finding our mountain pose first. Remember, heavier in the heels, lighter in the toes. Spreading our toes apart. Shifting our body weight into that left leg. Let's bring our right leg up, knee to chest. Just working on balance here first. If it helps you, go sneak over by a wall. You can always just have your fingers on the wall, the other arm at airplane. Woohoo! There went my balance. And now, slowly put your arms out to airplane. Drop the knee. Point the knee to the ground. Leg is still bent. And extend the leg out. Hinging at the hip joint. Keep the hips squared. Let muscles hug the bone. And slowly lift back. A support. And one more time. Airplane. Pointing our knee to the ground. And then press to extend. Keeping our hips squared. Fight that. It's okay if you have to touch your toe down to get your balance. It's all right. And back up. Woohoo. And release. Good job. Shake that out. That There's a lot of balance there for you. Let's work on stretching out some hips. Let's grab our blocks and have a seat, okay? Again, if you don't have a block, stack a couple pillows. The goal of the block is to sit kind of on the front edge, not squarely on top. It's tipping our hips, so that way our knees can be below the height of our hips, instead of like this, where our knees are sky high. So, the block is a great aid. If you need it, use it. If you don't, more power to you. Someday maybe I'll get there. Sitting nice and tall. Good. Feet comfortably crossed. If you like, you can go to half lotus or maybe lotus. What feels good for you? Maybe knees out or heels out, extended, crisscross applesauce feels better than drawing them in close. Find what feels good for you. Sitting up nice and tall. Again, string on the crown of our head. Just like in mountain pose, it's a seated mountain. Think of the sternum lifting, but not flaring the ribs. Our belly button is gently in. Our shoulders are wide and open, so that way the bends of our elbows may face forward instead of inward. All that is not about forearms, it's about shoulders. Good. Easy seated. From here, let's just bring the soles of our feet together. Feet could be comfortably close, a little further out, as we butterfly our legs in cobbler pose. We'll quiet our legs, coming into forward fold, inhaling. And as we exhale, hinging at the hip joint, not rounding at our spine. Let the gaze be about 3 to 5 feet out in front of you. Imagine a good friend is behind you. Their palms of their hands are on your shoulder blades, gently pressing you forward, not letting you round down. So keep the spine long, keep the lower back long, keep your belly long. Don't lengthen the low back and shorten the belly. Breathe. Inhaling. And as we exhale, let's lift out. And one more time. Bounce those knees nice and quick. Just brief little bounces. And one more forward fold. Inhaling. And exhale. Hinging at the hip joint, remember, lower back is long, belly is long. Don't shorten the belly. Don't bring the rib cage towards the belly. Hinging at the hip joint, reaching forward. Don't let your forehead lead. Let's let our sternums lead. Keep the ears over the shoulders. Breathe. Inhale and exhale, lifting out. Coming back to crisscross. Easy seated twist to our right. Inhaling as we prepare. And exhale, starting with the low back, through the shoulders, and finally our gaze. Sitting nice and tall, not leaning back, not letting one hip lift higher than the other. Let's relax, shake the shoulders out. Let them fall away from our ears. Inhale, seated twist. Exhaling as we release to center. And changing sides. Inhaling. And exhale. Let that change creep up the spine. Let your gaze be the last thing to settle. Shake the shoulders out, get them to fall away from your ears. Inhale and exhaling as we release, Swapping what foot is in front. Inhale, seated twist, and exhaling. Wringing out that spine. Lift it up, stretch it out. Inhale. Exhaling as we release, changing sides. Inhaling and exhaling into our twist. Breathe. Remember what I said earlier. If you feel your breath is labored, soften your twist. It's okay. It's not about pulling yourself around as hard and as deeply as possible. Inhale, seated twist. Exhaling as we release. Just having a seat. Taking note of how maybe your knee feels, your back feels, your shoulder feels. Hopefully things feel a little different, a little bit better. Let's let the right hand reach out, pouring water out of our left ear. If we like, sweeping the left arm around. Let the palm of the hand rest on the side of the head, but don't pull. It's enough to allow the weight of that hand to help stretch. Let's remove the hand. And now the left hand reaches out to the wall and floor, pouring water out of our right ear. And then again, if you like, bringing the right palm around the head, just allowing the weight of that hand to help deepen the stretch. Inhale. And exhale, releasing the hand, lifting the head. Good. Let's come off of our blocks, lying on the floor for final relaxation today. Feel free to let the fingertips rest behind the knees or no support as we uncurl the spine onto the floor. When our shoulders touch, let's draw the knees into the chest. Cradle rocking side to side, starting with our knees high on our chest, and then allowing our knees to fall away, changing the rock. And then draw in and release. And releasing our feet to the floor. Let's stretch our legs out into final relaxation. Feel free to lift the shoulders, lift the hips, realign that spine. Closing our eyes, focusing on our breathing as we inhale fully and exhale fully. Breathe. Let the heat of the breath help release the tension in your facial muscles with each exhalation. Let that heat soften the belly muscles, shoulders, chest, hips, thighs. With each breath, let that softness radiate out through the arms and legs to the fingertips and toes, allowing ourselves to melt into the floor with each exhalation. Let's start to wiggle our fingertips and our toes. Let's bring the soles of our feet together, hands together, gently rubbing to create warmth and awareness to our extremities. Let's shield our eyes, gently opening the eyes. Let's bring our knees together. And if you'd like, join me in rocking and rolling to seated or easing up onto your seat. Namaste. Enjoy your day. I hope this was a wonderful end or a great way to start. However time you choose or whatever time you choose to practice, I hope it was just right for you. Until then, I'll see you next week. Thank you.